Vishal, a soft-spoken young man with kind eyes, stepped into Mihir's house for the very first time. He carried simple gifts, wrapped with care, but not with extravagant paper. His clothes were neat, but plain. Mihir's mother, Malati, took one look at him and her face hardened. To her, Vishal's humility looked like poverty. She saw his modest offerings not as a token of affection, but as a sign that he was unworthy of her daughter. Malati sized him up, her gaze sharp and judgmental. She whispered to her husband, Ramesh, "Is this the best our Mihir could find? He looks like he can barely afford a decent meal, Ramesh." A man who followed his wife's lead just shrugged. But Mihir was different. She saw past the simple clothes and the inexpensive gifts. She saw Vishal's sincerity, the honesty in his smile, and the genuine warmth in his eyes. While Malati made snide remarks under her breath, Mahaya found herself drawn to Vishal's gentle nature. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just being himself. And that was more than enough for her. The conversations that followed were tense. Malati grilled Vishal about his job, his family, his savings. Every answer he gave seemed to disappoint her further. A small apartment? No car. She scoffed, making sure Vishal heard her. Mahaya would interject, trying to steer the conversation to safer topics, but her mother was relentless. She saw Vishal as a social and financial downgrade, a stain on their family's reputation. Despite the frosty reception, Vishal remained polite and composed, answering every question with quiet dignity. This only irritated Malati more. She couldn't understand why Mahaya was so taken with this ... nobody. But Mahaya's heart was set. She saw a future with Vishal, a life built on love and mutual respect, not on bank balances and social status. Seeing her daughter's determination, Malati reluctantly agreed to the marriage. But in her mind, a plan was already forming. She thought, fine, let her marry him. Once they're married, he'll be under my roof and under my thumb. I'll make him understand his place. I'll control everything. She put on a fake smile and gave her blessing, secretly believing she had won. The wedding was fixed, but it was a celebration tainted by unspoken prejudice and hidden agendas. Meher was overjoyed, completely unaware of the storm her mother was brewing. After the wedding, Vishal moved in, and Malati's true colors began to show. Life became a series of daily humiliations for him. Every morning, as he left for work on his humble scooter, Malati would stand at the window and mock him. "Look at him," she'd say to anyone who would listen, "my son-in-law, the millionaire on his royal chariot." She criticized his clothes, calling them rags. She sneered at the lunch Mihir packed for him, suggesting it was probably the best meal he'd get all day. Vishal never retorted. He would just give a small, sad smile and go on his way. Mihir was caught in the middle. She loved her husband dearly, but she was also her mother's daughter. She would argue with Malati, defending Vishal, but her mother's words were like poison, slowly seeping into the household. "Why don't you buy a car, Vishal?" Malati would demand at the dinner table. "Are you saving up for a bicycle next?" The constant insults created a tense atmosphere. Mihir saw the pain in Vishal's eyes, even though he tried to hide it. She felt helpless, torn between her love for her husband and her duty to her mother. The home that should have been a sanctuary for the newlyweds had become a battleground, with Vishal as the silent, solitary soldier. Enduring one attack after another, Malati's cruelty didn't stop at home. She began spreading rumors among their relatives and neighbors. "My Nina," she'd say with a sigh of fake pity. "Oh, the poor boy is jobless. My Mihir is supporting him. We are feeding him out of the goodness of our hearts." She painted a picture of Vishal as a lazy, unemployed freeloader who had trapped her daughter. The lie was so convincing that people started looking at Vishal with a mixture of pity and contempt. But the truth was far different. Every morning when Vishal left on his scooter, he wasn't heading to some menial job or wandering aimlessly. He was going to a massive, sprawling tech park on the other side of the city. Unbeknownst to everyone, Vishal was not just an employee there. He was the founder and CEO of one of the fastest growing companies in the park, StarTech PVT Limited. One day, Mihir's college friend, who worked in the same tech park, saw Vishal. He was confused. He had heard the rumors that Vishal was unemployed. Curiosity got the better of him, and he mentioned it to Mihir. "I saw Vishal at the tech park today," he said. "He was coming out of the main building, the one StarTech owns." Mihir, puzzled and a little suspicious, decided to see for herself. The next day, she followed Vishal. She watched him ride his scooter to the gate of the tech park and then saw him walk into the largest, most impressive building on the campus. She waited, her heart pounding. A few minutes later, she saw him through the glass facade, leading a board meeting. Shocked, she pieced it all together. The man her mother called a beggar was a self-made millionaire, employing over 500 people. That evening, the confrontation was quiet, but intense. Mihir looked at Vishal, her eyes filled with a million questions. "Why, Vishal? Why did you hide this from me?" From everyone. Vishal finally broke his silence. His voice was calm, but filled with emotion. "When I first met you, Mihir," he began, "I saw something special. I saw a person who could love me for who I am, not for what I have. I wanted to be sure. I wanted a partner who would stand by me if I had nothing, not just when I have everything." He looked at her, his gaze steady. "Your mother's insults, they hurt, every single day. But I made a promise to myself. I would endure it. I vowed to answer every single insult, not with anger, but with quiet dignity, with purpose. I had to know if our love was real, if it was strong enough to survive this." He wasn't testing her, he was testing the world around them. From that day on, things began to change. Slowly but surely, Vishal didn't need to flaunt his wealth. He let his actions speak for him. The first move was subtle. Malati and Ramesh had been trying to sell their ancestral home for months without success. One day, a buyer appeared, offering a price far above the market rate. They were ecstatic. They sold the house and moved into a smaller apartment, feeling smug about their good fortune. They had no idea that the holding company that bought the house was owned by Vishal. He now owned the very roof under which he had been humiliated. Next, Malati's nephew, full of arrogance and pride, applied for a senior position at StarTech. He boasted to the family that he was a shoo-in. His application landed on Vishal's desk. Vishal looked at the resume, remembering all the times the young man had joined his mother in mocking him. He wrote a single word on the file: rejected. The nephew was stunned, and Malati was furious, never suspecting who had made the final decision. The tables were turning, and Malati was completely oblivious. Society, which had once pitied Vishal based on Malati's lies, started to see the truth. They saw the beggar quietly succeeding, while the arrogant mother-in-law's world slowly crumbled. The final act of humiliation for Malati came at a prestigious citywide business awards ceremony. She and Ramesh had managed to get invitations, eager to rub shoulders with the city's elite. The main award of the night, Entrepreneur of the Year, was announced. The host called out the name Mr. Vishal, founder of StarTech. Malati froze, her heart stopped. She watched in stunned silence as her son-in-law, the man she had called jobless and worthless, walked onto the stage to a standing ovation. He looked distinguished in his tailored suit, a confident and respected leader. As he accepted the award, whispers erupted around Malati. "Isn't that her son-in-law? The one she said was a good-for-nothing. I heard she threw him out. She called him a beggar, and he owns half the city." Every whisper was a dagger to her pride. There, in the midst of a crowd that now revered Vishal, Malati felt a shame so profound it silenced her completely. She had never felt so small, so utterly and publicly humiliated. Her own arrogance had become her downfall. A few days later, Malati went to see Vishal. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a deep, hollow remorse. Tears streamed down her face as she stood before him. "I am so sorry, Vishal," she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. "I was blind, ... I was cruel, and I was wrong. Can you ever forgive me?" Vishal looked at her, his expression unreadable. His voice was calm, without a trace of triumph or anger, but it was resolute. "I forgive you," he said softly. "I forgive you because holding on to anger will only poison my own life. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You didn't just insult me. You broke something important. You broke trust. And trust, once shattered, can never be fully pieced back together in the same way." His forgiveness was a release for himself, not a restoration of their old dynamic. The power had shifted permanently. In the end, Malati and Ramesh lived out their days in quiet humility. The grand house was gone, their social standing diminished. They learned a harsh but necessary lesson. Mihir and Vishal, free from the toxicity, rebuilt their life together. Their love, tested by fire, was now stronger than ever, founded on a newfound respect and a peaceful understanding. Vishal had proven that true worth isn't measured by what you own, but by the strength of your character. And in the face of quiet dignity, arrogance will always, eventually, fall silent. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.